We are taught the idea that we must give and prioritize generosity over our personal interests. But someone warns us about the dangers of being too nice. Compassionate people live in a world where we don't always receive what we give because it's full of generous people who drain both their financial resources and energy through indiscriminate donations. If it's your first time on my channel, I ask you to help me by subscribing and liking the video. That way, I can continue to create more content like this in the future. Could excessive generosity even put our own lives in danger? Be amazed by the unexpected negative effects that kindness can bring you. Today, I'll reveal the 8 things that happen to you for being too good and introduce 4 Stoic strategies to avoid people taking advantage of you. Without more preamble, let's get started. Number 1. You will have unrealistic expectations. The Stoics emphasize the need to accept circumstances as they are and not base our happiness on the actions of others. By giving without expecting too much in return, you avoid disappointment and practice emotional detachment, which leads to greater peace of mind. Imagine this scenario. You strive to be generous and kind, giving the best of yourself to others without expecting anything in return. This attitude is noble, but often involves, consciously or unconsciously, waiting for others to respond with the same level of generosity. We hope that people recognize our efforts and reciprocate in a similar way. But what happens when these expectations are not met? The root of this problem lies in our expectations. By assuming that others will respond in the same way that we do, we put ourselves in a vulnerable position. While it's natural to want others to appreciate and value our actions, Stoicism reminds us that we can't control the actions of others. We can control only our own actions and reactions. It's difficult for us to be completely altruistic in our generosity. Consciously or unconsciously, when we give it our all, we expect others to do the same. Yet, you've become so accustomed to doing everything for them that they will assume you can handle everything, both in their lives and in yours, especially in yours. Why will they assume your responsibilities? The truth is that your expectations of reciprocity will not be met, and what will happen to you is that you'll be cranky, fatigued, frustrated, and disappointed. Stoicism teaches us that our true wealth lies in our ability to give without expecting anything in return, finding joy in the very act of giving, and maintaining our peace of mind no matter what we do. Number 2, people will just expect you to give them something. The practice of moderation is cherished by the Stoics. It becomes an anchor in a sea of demands. Instead of giving in to the unlimited requests from others, Stoicism urges us to balance our generosity. In giving in a measured way, we maintain control over our actions and avoid falling into patterns that erode our well-being. Often, we adapt to situations and environments that result in this human tendency, where the concept of a comfort zone is born. If we constantly assume the responsibilities of others, we are allowing them to stay in their comfort zones. They don't feel the need to grow or face challenges, because they know we'll always be there to cover their backs. The problem isn't only for others, but also for ourselves. We neglect our own needs and priorities. We find ourselves caught in a cycle of giving without receiving, which depletes our energy and undermines our emotional well-being. Practice moderation in giving. This allows you to maintain control over your own actions and avoid falling into habits that wear out your emotional well-being. If you get used to giving all the time, the beneficiaries of your generosity will expect you to give them something all the time. It's important to give, but it's also crucial to maintain a balance. Set clear boundaries and practice balanced generosity. This not only preserves our own peace and well-being, but also encourages others to assume their own responsibilities and grow as individuals. In this delicate balance, we find real generosity that nourishes both others and ourselves. Number 3, your priorities will be trampled on. The Stoics emphasize the importance of living according to reason and virtue. Setting boundaries and prioritizing our own essential responsibilities is crucial for balance and to avoid sacrificing our authenticity and well-being for others. If you're giving it your all for other people's priorities, You might be running away from something inside of you that causes you pain and fear. The emotions that arise in these moments of loneliness can be overwhelming. The feeling of emptiness, deafening silence, and the longing for connection can generate deep emotional distress. It is often in these moments when we seek refuge in the needs of others. We immerse ourselves in service to others as a way to fill the emptiness we feel within ourselves. The cost of this incessant surrender is high. You lose yourself in the process, and your inner voice is drowned by demands. Sooner or later, when you face the stillness of your own being, the pain and fear you've been trying to avoid emerge with force. It is essential to recognize that meeting our own needs and priorities is not selfishness. It is a way of self-care and preserving our authenticity. The Stoics teach us that setting boundaries and living according to our own virtues is an act of self-love, and it's necessary for our overall well-being. It's also a path to an authentic life. The next time you feel the temptation to run away from yourself in constant service to others, stop. Wait a minute. Acknowledge those uncomfortable emotions that arise in solitude and embrace them with compassion. Allow yourself to be authentic in your wants and needs. Set healthy boundaries and learn how to say no when necessary. You'll find that by honoring your own authenticity, you will not only benefit internally, but also provide balanced and genuine generosity to others from a place of wholeness and authenticity. Number 4, you'll be seen as weak and treated as such. Stoicism encourages us to cultivate inner strength and self-control. Setting boundaries and practicing self-discipline is crucial. If you help too much over time, you could be seen as an authority figure in the area in which you collaborate with others. But you could give exactly the opposite impression in this context. Lack of boundaries makes you vulnerable. People perceive this as weakness, and instead of respecting you, they can start taking advantage of you. You come across as someone willing to carry the responsibilities of others without questioning, and this can lead to a situation where you're constantly overloaded, exhausted, and frustrated. When you start saying no in a firm but respectful way, something unbelievable happens. People start to perceive you differently. You're no longer the one willing to carry everything without question. Now, you're someone who values yourself enough to set boundaries, someone who deserves to be treated with dignity and consideration. This change in perception is essential. When you pronounce that little word, it transforms the way others see you. You're no longer an easy prey for incessant demands from others. You are a strong individual able to defend your limits and therefore deserving of respect. In the end, respect doesn't just come from what you do for others, but also from how you treat yourself. By setting boundaries and practicing self-discipline, you're sending a clear message to the world. You deserve to be treated with dignity and respect.
Number 5, you'll have a lot of buts. People will only come to you when they need something. When you become someone who's willing to help unconditionally, it's natural that the people around you begin to notice it. However, this attention can have a dark side. People who used to think of you as a good friend might start to exclude you from fun social activities, reserving your presence only for when they need something. This pattern of behavior can seem ruthless, but from a pragmatic perspective, it's not so surprising. People rarely invite their employees or collaborators to share leisure time. It's more common for such invitations to be extended to close friends, family, or people with whom they have a genuine relationship. This change in the way they treat you can be disconcerting and in many ways unfair. You find yourself in a position where you give freely, only to feel excluded when it comes to moments of joy and relaxation. This selective treatment can hurt and provoke feelings of disillusionment and betrayal. However, from the Stoic perspective, this type of behavior is a trial by fire for your discernment. It challenges you to recognize who really values your friendship and who is just taking advantage of your generosity. It's important to remember that Stoicism does not advocate becoming cynical or distrustful, but to cultivate a deep understanding of human nature. Through discernment, you can choose to help those who really need it and who will value your genuine support. Doing so not only protects your own energies and resources, but also surrounds you with people who appreciate you for who you are, not just for what you can give them. This challenge gives you the opportunity to practice Stoic self-discipline. You can choose to set clear boundaries and decide how you want to spend your energy and time. By keeping your generosity balanced and focused on those who truly value your help, you can live according to Stoic principles and find a sense of peace and contentment in the complexities of human relations.
Number 6. You will attract only people in need and never those willing to give. According to the Stoics, our actions and thoughts emit an energy that attracts people with similar resonances. When we cultivate a positive emotional and mental state, we radiate high vibrations that attract equally positive individuals, generous, enthusiastic, and genuine. However, when we give indiscriminately and become emotionally and physically exhausted in the process, our energy weakens. We begin to vibrate at a lower frequency, which attracts needy people towards us. These people, far from being authentic and willing to give in a relationship, come to us just to meet their own needs. Moreover, this lowered frequency also attracts opportunistic individuals who do not intend or have the resources to help, but see us as an easy source to get what they want. The key, according to Stoic philosophy, lies in discernment and self-discipline. We must learn to recognize where we are overgiving and draining our own energies. This involves setting clear boundaries and practicing moderation in our generosity. By doing so, we maintain our vibrations at a higher frequency and attract people who value our authenticity and are willing to contribute in a reciprocal way in the relationship. Being aware of our energies and practicing balanced generosity allows us to cultivate authentic and mutually beneficial relationships. These relationships are based on reciprocity, respect, and genuine appreciation of each other, rather than exploitation. Ultimately, this approach allows us to live according to Stoic principles and experience true human connection based on honesty and integrity.
Number 7. You could fall into addiction. When Stoics warn us about the possibility of falling into addiction, they remind us that moderation and self-control are essential for maintaining a balanced and healthy life. In the context of generosity, practicing self-discipline protects us from falling into addictive patterns that can arise when we feel constantly exhausted and in need because of our overextension. Living in alignment with Stoic principles helps us recognize that generosity should be balanced. Giving without measure and without restrictions may exhaust our own emotional and physical reserves, leading us to seek relief in addictive substances or behaviors such as overeating, drinking, or gambling. Stoic philosophy teaches us to pay attention to the warning signs that come to us through the people close to us. If someone you trust points out that you are resorting too much to certain behaviors, we must take those remarks seriously. Seriously, it's natural that our first reaction is denial, especially when we're stuck in the cycle of incipient addiction. However, these concerns come from a place of genuine care and love. Accepting these observations with humility and gratitude is a crucial step towards self-awareness and personal growth. In doing so, we are practicing Stoic philosophy in action by applying the principles of moderation and self-control to avoid falling into addictive traps that can undermine our health and well-being. Always remember that the people who care about us do so to help us overcome challenges and move toward a more fulfilling and meaningful life. By taking their concerns seriously, we demonstrate deep consideration for our own well-being and a genuine commitment to our personal growth and long-term happiness. Number 8, you'll arouse suspicion. Stoicism encourages us to act virtuously, independently of how others may perceive us. At the same time, by focusing on living in harmony with our principles and values, we build a genuine reputation that is resistant to unfounded suspicion. Although we'd like things to be different, the truth is that genuinely kind people are not plentiful in this world. So if you are one of them, you may arouse suspicion instead of admiration and gratitude. It won't be long before your kindness leads people to start wondering what's going on with you and what hidden intentions you might have. Does this mean you found a group of distrustful people? Not necessarily, but it's more likely to be realistic. Most overly enthusiastic people tend to hide intentions so dubious that it's better to stay away from them and give up the help they want to provide. Let's look at the strategies to prevent people from taking advantage of you. Strategy number 1, listen to your feelings. Speaking based on the Stoic idea of self-awareness, pay attention to your emotions and feelings. The Stoics believed in the importance of self-reflection to understand your reactions and needs. By listening to your feelings, you can identify if you're overgiving and burning out emotionally, allowing you to adjust your approach and find a healthy balance. How do you feel when you help others? Thinking about yourself and prioritizing your own needs is an act as altruistic as practicing kindness. It should make you feel like you're walking on clouds. If you're feeling overwhelmed, angry, or used, it's time to pay attention to your feelings. If something you have no obligation to do causes so much discomfort, you need not trick yourself. Understand how the help you're providing affects your well-being. Strategy number 2, lose your fear of the word no. Following the Stoic teachings, recognize that your time and energy are valuable and should be consciously and balancedly assigned. Saying no in situations where you feel overwhelmed or when the request is unfair is a form of exercising self-control. Although the word no is often associated with negative behavior and pessimism, it's normal to struggle with saying it. Yet failing to say no when necessary will lead to negativity in our lives. Practice in front of the mirror and convince yourself that saying no is the only way to regain your freedom and avoid unnecessary risks and potential pitfalls. Strategy number 3, there's a time and space for yourself. Respect them. Following the Stoic principles of self-discipline and self-respect, it's essential to set aside time and space to take care of yourself. Do what you enjoy. Practice yoga, draw, listen to music while you have a cup of tea. Whatever motivates you. Finish your obligations as soon as possible so you can enjoy this time. This is something you should take very seriously as scheduling this time daily or weekly. If someone asks for help during that time, be very respectful and cooperative with yourself, not with the person. Tell them no without regrets and enjoy that time and space alone for you. If you don't want to be too blunt, you can offer your help for another moment. But always make it clear that your availability will be limited because you have a life to take care of.
Strategy number 4, identify energy vampires and stay away from them. Following the Stoic principles of self-discipline and discernment, it's important to recognize which relationships can exhaust you emotionally. By distancing yourself from people who constantly drain your energy and do not contribute positively, you protect your own well-being.